Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Welcome back to the Ask Ralph show as we continue our education series. And if you've been listening, we've covered a lot of ground so far. We've talked about, the tax credits that you can get for education. We talked about deductions. We talked about student loans. We talked about federal versus private. We talked about subsidized versus unsubsidized. And then we finished with some Perkins loans and plus loans things. Now today, in this session, I want to talk about something that you don't have to repay back, and that's grants or scholarships. Now, the cool thing about these, and parents, I know you're going to like this, and this is things you don't have to pay back. These are not loans. So these are, money that is free money to help you pay for college or career school. Now, grants and scholarships are often called gift aid because they're free money. Financial aid, it doesn't have to be repaid. Grants are often need-based, while scholarships are usually merit-based. So that's the big difference. Now, if you start having a discussion with somebody about the difference between a grant and a scholarship, generally grants are offered based on a financial need, whereas scholarships are usually merit-based. And these can come from all sorts of sources. They can come from the federal government, state government, college or career school, or private nonprofit organization. One of the biggest things that I hear parents saying is that their children just don't spend the time looking for these scholarships and grants. And the truth is, I hear this all the time, is that these things they don't get used. I've belonged to many groups such as the Rotary or something like that. And when we've had, financial aid or scholarships or grants available, and it's sometimes like pulling teeth to get people to apply for them. You want to apply for as many of these grants and scholarships as you may be eligible for, and be sure to meet the application deadlines. So parents, stay on top of your students. If you're looking at a particular scholarship or grant, read the details, understand the details. You may have to coax your kids into doing this. It may involve, hey, I know you wanted something, so let's get this scholarship. It's going to be big money for you. Now, one of the things you need to realize is that certain scenarios may require that a portion or all of the federal grants be repaid. For example, if you withdraw from school before finishing an enrollment period such as a semester. So even though these are considered to be free money, you want to make sure that you understand the requirements of that. The U.S. Department of Education offers a variety of federal grants to students attending four-year colleges or universities, community colleges, and career schools. We're going to talk about the different ones. There's the federal Pell Grants, the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grants, or the FSEOG. I had no idea what that was before I looked into these. There's a Teacher Education Assistance for College and Higher Education Teach Grants, and then there's also the Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grants. How do you get a federal grant? Almost all of the grants listed here that we talked about are awarded to students with financial need. If you're interested in any of the grants, you have to start by submitting that FAFSA. And again, I'm going to reiterate, FAFSA has deadlines. First come, first serve. The same thing works with these grants. You have to fill out the FAFSA form every year you're in school in order to stay eligible for federal student aid. A lot of people don't know that. They think, I'm going to do it the first time and then I don't have to worry about it again. Wrong answer. You need to fill out that FAFSA form every year. Once you've done that, you'll work with your college or career school to find out how much you can get and when you'll get it. Now, let's talk about scholarships. There are thousands of scholarships from all kinds of organizations that are not hard to find. You have to be able to get a scholarship for being a good student. You might be able, maybe you're a good basketball player, a member of a certain church, or because your parent works for a particular company or some other reason. There are a ton of these scholarships. Now, along that same line, be careful of scholarship scams. There are some unscrupulous people out there that come up with these scholarship scams. Now, there also is a resource online. You can look up scholarships for military families. So there are some scholarships that are available only for folks whose family in the military, or maybe you have a mother or father that served or is currently serving. Now, we talked a little about this a few minutes ago and said, when would you have to pay back part of a federal grant? So let's say, you get this federal grant, like a Pell Grant or something like that. Why would you have to pay it back? Well, here are some things you need to understand. If you withdraw early from the program for which the grant was given to you, you got to understand what you're signing here, folks. Read the details. You may have to pay some of it back. Your enrollment status changed in a way that reduced your eligibility for your grant. For instance, if you switch from full-time enrollment to part-time, your grant amount will be reduced. You need to understand that from the front end. If you're qualifying for a particular grant, understand, is this a full-time student grant or a part-time student grant? Now, you also may have to pay your grant back if you received outside scholarship or grants that reduced your federal financial needs. So if for some reason, when you applied for this, your financial need was this, but then you got something else, that covered that, you may have to repay that. And for a TEACH grant, you do not meet the requirements of your TEACH grant service obligation. We're going to talk about that a little bit down the road. Now, how do you repay a grant? Well, if that happens to you, your school will notify you if you must repay part of your grant. From that point, you'll have 45 days to either pay that portion of the grant back in full or enter into a satisfactory repayment arrangement. If you enter into a satisfactory repayment arrangement, the school may assign the debt to ED for collection or may keep the debt and allow you to make payments directly to them. Now, in order to maintain a scholarship or grant, they vary from program to program. You need to understand what those things are. There may be particular pieces to a particular grant. Like you may have to have a GPA that's a certain number. You may need to, maintain a certain number of credits in school. There is a great resource out there, which is www.this is the first time I've seen one of these, .ed.gov. And it talks a great deal about student loans and specifically more about grants. But this is something you want to spend some time and do your homework in. You want to understand, what are the grants out there? What are the scholarships out there? I know I was doing something for one of my children, and they were talking about some of the unusual scholarships out there. I mean, there are scholarships for everything. You just have to apply yourself. Now, that being said, you need to understand that sometimes for getting these scholarships, you're going to have to do some work. I had a parent say to me not too long ago, they're I don't remember if it was a boy or a girl, their child, had applied for this scholarship, and they got the packet from the particular place that was offering the scholarship. And one of the things they had to do was write an essay. And this parent shared with me, I can't get my child to write this essay. They just don't see the value of this. So you may have to put a little pressure on your student. You may need to incent them with something they've been wanting. Maybe it's time for, them to get a little extra time in their car, or maybe take them on a little weekend getaway or something like that, because this is going to save you money if they're able to qualify for these scholarships. But like I said before, make sure you understand that there may be requirements for how this works, so you want to make sure you don't get yourself jammed up with any kind of issues. That you need to understand what you're signing up for at the front end and what could happen if you need to repay this grant. So understand at the beginning, what are the nuances to this? What are the things that you need to be concerned about? Because you don't want to get in this situation where you weren't aware of the particular situations with this grant or scholarship, and then you end up losing it. And you also want to make sure that you get that FAFSA form filled out early, because these are on a first come, first served basis. Now, in our next session, we're going to talk about the specifics of the 4 types of, student grant programs that are available. And we'll talk about what you need to do to qualify for each of those and what are the benefits of each of those programs.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware, and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.